Hi there, and welcome back to Lynn Reads, the channel where we share powerful insights and personal growth lessons through great books. Imagine chasing a dream your whole life, only to realize it was built on illusions. In today's video, we're diving deep into Death of a Salesman, one of the most powerful critiques of the American dream, written by Arthur Miller. This timeless play explores the life of Willy Loman, a salesman whose pursuit of success leads him down a path of delusion, disappointment, and tragedy. But what makes Death of a Salesman so compelling? How does it reflect the struggles we face with identity, family, and societal expectations? Stick around as we break down the themes, characters, and the heartbreaking journey that is Willy Loman's life. If you enjoy what you hear and want to dive deeper, we've included a link to the book in the description below. Now, let's get started. Death of a Salesman, released in 1949, is regarded as one of the greatest plays of the 20th century. The work critiques the promises and pitfalls of capitalism, as well as the concept of the American dream. The story revolves around the life of the salesman Willy Loman, his strained relationships with family and colleagues, and the tragedy and delusion as he gets caught in a maze of illusions and madness. Arthur Miller was an American playwright. He made significant contributions to post-war drama through works like Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, and A View from the Bridge. In his plays, he fiercely critiques the ruthless ambitions and growing consumerism in modern-day America. Death of a Salesman is not a comedy, nor an exciting, adventurous thriller. It also doesn't feature grand settings or spectacular imagery. In two brief scenes, the most unusual place it takes us is a hotel room in Boston. Yet, why did this play win the Pulitzer Prize, sell over 11 million copies, and be adapted into 10 films? It is due to its simplicity. The Loman family isn't particularly wealthy or extraordinary. They are just ordinary people living in an ordinary house with the common flaws of their time. This makes the tragedy in the play even deeper, creating a powerful emotional impact. Through the inner development of the characters, we understand how modern American culture poisoned Willy Loman's mind and destroyed his family. However, the fact that the play honors ordinary people and places does not mean it is boring or dull. As the play unfolds, we glide through dreamy scenes where past and present, truth and lies, dreams and reality blend together, reflecting Willy's growing disorientation. As the illusions he created to maintain his false belief in the American dream are revealed, his fabricated life begins to collapse. Willy has two choices: face the truth or continue living in illusion. His decision will be revealed through the events in this work. Additionally, we will portray the main story of the play and explain the key themes and notable points. Willy Loman, a 63-year-old traveling salesman, returns home after a difficult business trip, exhausted, with his hair full of gray. Linda, his wife, is clearly worried. Willy doesn't hide the fact that he frequently feels dizzy while driving and nearly crashed into a guardrail. Upon hearing this, Linda reminds Willy of the time he lost control of the car and fell into the river. From the very beginning of the story, Willy's mental state is unstable. He is easily agitated, unreliable, and often contradicts himself. His two grown sons, Biff and Happy, are coming to visit. That morning, Willy had criticized Biff for being lazy and unable to maintain a steady job. But now, he insists that Biff is not lazy at all. Happy is more successful than Biff, but he feels heartbroken seeing his father begin talking to himself. Most of the time, Willy talks to an imagined version of Biff, as if his son is actually in the room. These conversations reveal Willy's anger and disappointment with the way Biff has chosen to live his life, drifting from one menial job to another. There is a clear contrast between Biff's current lifestyle and the values Willy tried to instill in him when he was younger. These values are also principles that Willy adheres to himself. In fact, they dominate his life obsessively and are at the core of the play. This salesman believes in a distorted version of the American dream, where ambition, self-confidence, and being well-liked will lead to tremendous success and material wealth. With a modest house and an old car, we easily recognize that Willy has never achieved the fame and fortune he had expected from the American dream. Furthermore, we witness his mental instability and his willingness to distort reality to fit his perspective. The tension and contrast between Willy's distant dreams and the present reality drive the entire story and will lead us to its tragic conclusion. In this section, we begin to dive deeper into Willy's daydreams, recollections, and imagined escape ventures, a motif frequently used throughout the play. The flow of time is flexible, and the recreation of Willy's illusions and fantasies on stage is presented like real scenes, highlighting the ambiguity in Willy's consciousness. It is at this point that we begin to question what is real and what is an illusion. In this flashback, Biff and Happy return to their childhood, helping their father wash the car. Even in these memories, Willy's negative traits are apparent. Happy seeks his father's attention in desperation, while Willy favors Biff. He even jokes about his favorite son stealing a ball. Willy also feels jealous of the success of Charlie, his neighbor. Keep in mind, in Willy's mind, success is everything. He tells himself that he will establish a company even bigger than Charlie's because he is more well-liked. For Willy, being acknowledged by others is crucial, and becoming a successful man is the ultimate goal. This is the American dream from Willy Loman's perspective. Reality begins to intrude upon Willy's memories. We are now in a space between the present and the past. While still in a semi-trance, he tells Linda that he earned $1,200 from his recent business trip. However, when Linda questions him, Willy quickly admits that he only made $70, an amount barely enough to pay the family's bills. Yet, he insists that he will break the sales record if those 3 stores had to close for inventory. Suddenly, we fall into another daydream. Willy is sitting in a hotel room in Boston with his mistress, watching her try on a new pair of stockings he bought for her. Then we return to the present in the Loman household. Willy sees Linda mending a pair of stockings just like the ones he gave to his mistress. In a flurry of confusion, anger, guilt, and shame, he begins to shout at his wife. In the end, the act of mending the stockings serves as evidence that Willy has failed to achieve his American dream. Quickly, we return to Willy's illusion. He is haunted by the ghosts of his past. This time, it's his brother Ben who appears, a man who achieved everything Willy could not. Having ventured into the wilderness and struck it rich with a diamond mine in Africa at the age of 21, Ben is cold, composed, and confident, the complete opposite of Willy's erratic nature. He tells Willy the story of their father who went to Alaska to sell flutes during the famous gold rush. We realize that Willy not only lives under the burden of his own ambitions and dreams, but also under the shadow of his father and brother, who achieved their masculine, successful version of the American dream. In this scene, we see Willy shouting on the front lawn of his house, his frantic screams waking Linda and Biff. Linda reveals to Biff that Willy recently lost his fixed salary and now only works on commission. To make matters worse, Willy has been borrowing $50 a week from Charlie, his successful neighbor whom he envies, and claims to Linda that it's his salary. However, Linda knows the truth. Linda is also aware of Willy's accidents on the road. Actually, they are suicide attempts. She even found a rubber tube in the garage, a sign that Willy had been contemplating suicide. Biff tries to help his father escape his anxious state, but Willy only grows angrier, insisting that he is a well-liked salesman. Happy informs Willy that he and Biff are considering starting a business together, and Biff plans to borrow money from an old friend. The idea of his 2 sons achieving the American dream and becoming successful entrepreneurs briefly brings Willy back to reality, and the entire family goes to sleep. Before they sleep, Linda asks Willy to ask his boss, Howard, for a sales job that doesn't require traveling. However, when Willy goes to Howard's office the next morning, things don't go as expected. Willy adopts a fawning, awkward attitude, trying to impress his impatient boss. When Willy requests a job that doesn't require traveling, Howard tells him there are no positions available. In desperation, Willy goes into detail about his family's financial situation, practically begging Howard to change his mind. But Howard remains unmoved and eventually decides to fire Willy on the spot after Willy begins shouting uncontrollably. Howard tells Willy, "I don't want a man like you representing us." After the meeting to discuss Happy and Biff's business plans, reality begins to gradually become clear to Willy. Although Willy is still sitting in Howard's office, his mind drifts to other spaces and times. He is visited again by the ghost of his successful brother, Ben, who had asked Willy to manage his lumber yard. We are then drawn back into memories of Biff, Happy, and their childhood friend Bernard. Clearly, both Happy and Bernard respect Biff. They even argue about who will get to wear Biff's football helmet. Back in the Loman household, we see Bernard, now a successful and modest lawyer, visiting Bernard is about to participate in a Supreme Court case, though he does not mention it. Willy, filled with pride and boasting, tells Bernard about the big business plan Biff is working on. In his deteriorated state, Willy asks Bernard why Biff's life went off track. Bernard reveals that Biff changed after he visited Willy in Boston. But when Bernard asks about what happened there, Willy becomes angry and avoids the question. Next, Willy visits Charlie, his successful neighbor, to get his weekly loan. When Charlie learns that Willy had asked his boss for a job that didn't require travel but was unsuccessful, Charlie reminds Willy that he had once offered him such a job, but Willy had refused. Blinded by his pride and envy, Willy rejects Charlie's offer once again. He breaks down and admits that he was fired that day. He says that he had always believed the key to success was being well-liked. But Charlie responds, "So does anyone like J.P. Morgan." Willy leaves Charlie's office, feeling sad and in tears. In the next scene, we see Biff and Happy in a restaurant. Biff is completely shocked. He had to wait 6 hours to meet his former boss to ask for a loan for his business venture. But when they meet, the former boss doesn't remember him at all. Somehow, Willy's lies and exaggerations about Biff's success had led his son to believe he was a successful salesman for his former boss. In reality, Biff was just a regular deliveryman. He leaves the meeting empty-handed. Willy arrives at the restaurant and announces that he was just fired. He pressures Biff, saying that he needs good news to share with Linda. However, Biff reveals the truth about borrowing money. Willy becomes furious and starts to grumble about Biff failing math as a child. After that, Happy and Biff leave Willy behind in the restaurant. Suddenly, we return to Willy's daydreams, a flashback to a hotel room in Boston, where Willy is with his mistress. There's a knock on the door, and it's Biff. Willy tries to fabricate a story, saying that the woman is a customer in the room next door, but Biff sees through the lies and sits crying next to his suitcase. Now, we understand what caused Biff, once a popular, sports-loving, promising boy, to become a drifting, aimless adult. We are now entering the climax of the play, where all the tension begins to erupt. When Biff and Happy return to the Loman household, Linda, their mother, expresses her anger at them for leaving their sick father at the restaurant. How could they be so heartless? This highlights Linda's character throughout the play. She is patient and loves her husband unconditionally. It is this love that makes Willy's illusions even more tragic. The family will always love him no matter how much he fails, but he cannot accept the truth about his current life and his inability to achieve the American dream. In the garden, Willy is again haunted by an illusion. He imagines a conversation with his brother about signing a $20,000 business contract. Ben expresses skepticism and suggests that Biff will hate him if he proceeds with this plan. At this point, we return to reality. Biff faces Willy in the garden, and they engage in a heated argument. Biff declares that he will leave and never speak to his father again. Willy retorts that Biff is failing in life and blames him. Biff angrily admits that he cannot hold a stable job because he is a thief. When he disappeared for 3 months, he was actually in prison for stealing. Biff blames his father for instilling in him the belief in his own importance and the ambition for success, which made it impossible for him to accept the truth. Willy continues to try to convince his family to support his fragile plans, but when his sons confirm that their business loan cannot come to fruition, the truth is revealed in front of Linda. Biff tries to get Willy to accept their ordinary daily lives, that the Loman family cannot achieve grand things, they are nothing at all. But his reasoning fails to persuade Willy, and the argument remains unresolved. That night, before they can even finish preparing to go to bed, they hear Willy's car roar as it speeds off. He has gone to complete the $20,000 business deal he discussed with Ben's ghost. Of course, it is not a deal. Willy has committed suicide so that his family can collect the life insurance money after his death. In the end, Willy Loman, who tirelessly pursued the American dream, leaves behind only the death of a salesman. Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller is a powerful critique of the American dream, exploring themes of success, self-worth, and family. The story revolves around Willy Loman, an aging salesman, whose inability to reconcile his dreams with his reality leads him down a path of delusion and despair. Willy Loman is a man deeply embedded in the notion that success is achievable through being well-liked and relentlessly pursuing material wealth. However, his life unfolds as a tragic reflection of how these ideals can devastate both the individual and the family. Throughout the play, Willy's spiraling mental state, compounded by his disillusionment with his life, presents a stark commentary on the dangerous allure of the American dream. What makes the play so gripping is the portrayal of Willy's relationships with his family. His tension with his sons, particularly Biff, reflects the generational clash between the ideals of his youth and the disillusionment of his children. Biff's transformation from a promising athlete to a man adrift in life mirrors the unraveling of Willy's own dreams. The conflict between Willy's desire to see his children succeed by his standards and Biff's quest for authenticity is at the heart of the play. Miller skillfully blends past and present, using flashbacks to demonstrate Willy's growing despair and the weight of his failed ambitions. Willy's need for validation from others, especially from figures like Charlie and his deceased brother Ben, contrasts with the reality that these figures were not the icons he believed them to be. This underscores the theme that the pursuit of external validation can be hollow and ultimately destructive. Ultimately, the play questions the value of the American dream itself. What happens when the dream is unattainable? And how does one reconcile failure in a world that prizes success above all? Willy's tragic end, choosing death over facing the truth, symbolizes the ultimate cost of living a life built on illusions. Miller's Death of a Salesman remains relevant today, offering a poignant reflection on the pressures of societal expectations and the psychological toll of chasing after an idealized version of success. The play serves as both a cautionary tale and a deeply human exploration of dreams, aspirations, and the often painful reality of life. And that wraps up our deep dive into this remarkable book. We hope it's been valuable to you. If you're interested in more titles with similar themes, leave a comment with your thoughts and recommendations. You can also buy the book to experience it more clearly, as well as support the author. I will leave the link in the description below for you to easily search. If you like the channel, you can press the like button, share, and turn on the notification bell to receive new content. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.